To veil or not to veil? That is the question. Why do I wear the hijab, the headscarf? Well, for starters, it's a privilege. It's an honor. God has bestowed upon women a very special status. We are the bearers of life. I'm not talking about just a piece of cloth, some textile. I'm talking about my relationship with Allah, with God. I'm talking about the meanings I ascribe to how I present myself in public, how I choose to present myself.
Yeah, more like how your husband chooses, or your father, or your brother. It's easy to choose when you have a gun held to your head. You know what the veil is? It's a vagina tax. It's the penalty Muslim women pay for being born with a vagina.
In Pakistan, where I'm from, I considered the hijab a sign of backwardness, a relic, a crossover from pre-Islamic times. I never wore the hijab in Pakistan. My mother and sister, they still live in Pakistan and they refuse to wear. Back home, we call ourselves modern Muslims. My family.
Oh, right, just like Pakistan's a modern country.
We were taught the hijab had nothing to do with Islam. If anything, the hijab was a political statement, but the wrong political statement. It signified solidarity with the so-called Islamic movements, more like un-Islamic movements. It was about being a woman and not thinking for yourself, but letting others, letting these men think for you. For me, the veil and those stupid political parties. Look, we're talking about a political ideology that uses religion to camouflage its reactionary policies. Hostility towards progress, education, women's equality. A bunch of insecure, uneducated, vulgar, misogynistic men who distort Islam so as to further their agenda. They are not Muslims as far as I'm concerned.
Walks like a duck, swims like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck, all right.
I was born and raised Muslim, but I became Muslim in the United States. You see, in Pakistan, being Muslim and being Pakistani were interchangeable, synonymous, where Islam is part of the culture. You take it for granted. And very few people actually study Islam back home. But in America, one gets to choose to be Muslim. And if you're, how do they say, a geek like me, you make an educated choice. So I studied. I read, I questioned and argued, I doubted. And I discovered in Islam something incredibly powerful and beautiful and just. I don't know if I'd still wear the hijab if we were to move back to Pakistan. My anger would get the best of me. But here in America, the veil changes. Here, the entire meaning of the hijab has shifted dramatically. This headscarf is the most radically feminist statement a Muslim American woman can make.
Really? The veil is feminism. Even George Orwell couldn't concoct that one. What about female genital mutilation? Is that feminism too? Yay for clitoridectomies! Chopping off a girl's clitoris. Now there's a feminist statement. We women need to reclaim our bodies. And if it means cutting off a vital organ, so be it. Small price to pay for freedom. It is high time we liberate our loins from the pleasures and joys of sex. Who needs a clitoris anyway? Men are doing just fine without one. Ayesha Khan is a first-rate propagandist, just like her husband. They throw acid in women's faces in Pakistan. What about that, Islam?
True Muslim is a lifelong student, a critical thinker. You combine the learning with the spiritual.
Of course Islam is intellectual. It's introspective. It's self-critical. I mean, Muslims don't demand someone's head if he pens a cartoon they don't like. Never.
There is an elegance in Islam. There is poetry and ritual and art. Islam is about peace.
Islam is really Zen, kind of like yoga. In fact, I bet you can meditate to Islam. But just don't get Islam all riled up. You see, whenever Islam gets mad, it tends to leave a trail of corpses behind. But other than that, it's really lovely. I mean, Muslims are pacifists, for the most part. Like the Amish.
I do not care what the ignorant Chinese daughter of Charles Baker thinks about this hijab or Islam or... In fact, I'm not interested in anything she has to say. I do not engage her or her parents. The Bakers, they're just this family of illiterates and bigots. Ask anyone in Naperville. Ignore her. This is my religion. These are my beliefs that we're talking about. You know, it was here in America that I experienced Allah, God, in all His compassion and mercy and love. And I discovered a connection with God. I mean, this hijab has so much meaning for me.
Okay, we are talking serious case of Stockholm Syndrome.
Do you have any idea how much more intelligent and in control I feel wearing this? How much more... The hijab reminds me every minute of every day that I'm a Muslim and that I am in constant conversation with Allah. The hijab brings me closer to God. I pity men for not having what I have.
If the hijab reminds you of anything, it's that men only view you as a sex object.
Allah instructs Muslims to present ourselves with modesty and humility, decorum, and self-respect. Women's bodies are not commodities. We are not sex objects. My body is not pornography.
At least pornography is honest. The only way that men can control their animalistic ways is to keep you covered up. The hijab is nothing more than an excuse for bad male behavior. It's good old-fashioned blame the women, posing as a headscarf. You know, it sounds to me like Muslim men should be the ones wearing veils over their dicks.
The hijab reminds me that I am a Muslim woman.
The hijab reminds me that I'm inferior.
A Muslim man, if he doesn't have a beard, doesn't wear the kufi or the Muslim skull cap, people don't necessarily know that he's Muslim. They might think he's Hispanic or Hindu, Mediterranean even. It's easier for our men to blend in and escape notice. I call it the Muslim closet. But a woman in hijab, she has nowhere to hide. This piece of cloth identifies me as a Muslim from 10 blocks away. And you wonder why us Muslim women are so much stronger than our men. I wear the hijab and my body belongs to me.
Don't you just love those strong Muslim women in veils? So powerful that they take all the shame of being female and wear it as an emblem of pride. I'd bust a gut laughing if it weren't so heartbreaking.
You know, Americans love to talk about girls' self-esteem. Well, you know what, girls? You know what? You want self-esteem, courage, and a thick skin? I say wear the hijab. The hijab allows me to assert my identity with pride, with integrity, to confront those who view me as a lesser human being and a second-class citizen. The hijab is a statement against racism, against sexism, against war and imperialism. It's my spirituality, my connection to God, my progressive politics, my feminism, all rolled into one.
In other words, the hijab is her way of flipping the finger at Americans. At least we know what she really thinks about us. Weakness is strength, oppression is freedom, submission is power. I tell you, it's Orwellian.
Of course, if my feminism doesn't align with that of Western women, Christian and Jewish women, then I'm delusional, suffering under false consciousness. Oh, spare me. Colonial feminism is not feminism, ladies. It's colonialism.
Americans have taken political correctness to an extreme. Let's learn from the French. They banned the veil, and so should we. The French are trying to civilize their Muslims, not celebrate them. Mark my words. Those Muslim women, the ones who are raising such a stink in France, someday they will thank the French government. France is trying to save them. Problem is, they've been so brainwashed. A French friend told me that banning the veil in France is like banning public smoking in the US. Just like secondhand smoke, the veil affects all who come in contact with it, and not in a good way.
I thank God that I live in the United States and not in a country like France. I love that Americans are a religious people, a God-loving people. Unlike the French with their soul-killing, atheistic, so-called secularism. And they wonder why they're all so depressed and hopeless. Oh yes, we should all learn from racist France. You ban the hijab and you're liberating, you're modernizing Muslim women? Excuse me. You ban the hijab and Muslim women and girls can no longer go to school. You ban the hijab and Muslim women can no longer have careers. You ban the hijab and Muslim women and girls become prisoners in their own homes. That's not liberation, that's slavery. You ban the hijab and the Taliban wins.